So do you know any franchises that you think just need a reboot after they've gotten so gigantic, big, or convoluted and confusing? I've heard some people make the argument for Pokemon, or Yu-Gi-Oh! Probably the most convoluted and confusing trading card game out there, at least outside of the My Little Pony card game. It kinda sorta did get a reboot when the last anime came out, Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s. The anime hasn't come out in the West yet, but they did something called Rush Dueling. And while we don't have the actual Rush Duel card game in the West, we do have a Nintendo Switch game that goes into it. Here is my review of Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duel Dawn of the Battle Royale for the Nintendo Switch. Now, as an anime tie-in, the story of this game is just one of the arcs of the Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's anime. Not the first arc, not the second arc, actually the most recent one for the Battle Royale tournament. You are a new character coming into the school of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s. You come in, are introduced to the concept of rush dueling, and immediately get an announcement that a big tournament is happening. So you and the main cast start going around to duel various people getting ready for that tournament. Now overall, I think the story is okay. Some of the characters you really need more background info on with how they act, and really the villains of this arc of the anime, let's just say it's okay. Don't play this game for the story, play it for the card game. When it comes to gameplay, this is a turn-based card game with some exploration and shop elements. As you play through the game, you'll be navigating 3D areas, talking to NPCs, and taking part in rush duels. Before diving into all the different gameplay features of this video game, let's talk about rush dueling versus normal Yu-Gi-Oh! And if you already know the rules of rush dueling and just want to dive into the review, I would skip ahead about 3.5 minutes. One of the biggest criticisms I've seen for this game is the fact that you only have about 700 different cards versus Legacy of the Duelist that has over 10,000. The thing to remember is that over in the East, where this card game actually exists, there are only about 700 to 800 cards at all. As far as the actual card game mechanics, imagine this is like a simple reboot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Except without the TCG actually going away. First, taking a look at the field, it is much smaller. You've only got 3 monster zones and 3 spell or trap zones in the middle of the field, very similar to the speed duel style of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. Now during each turn, you've got a draw phase where you draw cards until you have 5, and it doesn't matter how many you start with. If you have 4 cards in your hand, you draw 1 to have 5. If you have no cards in your hand, you draw 5 to have 5. The idea is that every turn you start with a full hand. No standby phase anymore. And then you have your main phase where you can summon monsters, activate spells and traps, and basically set up your battle. This is where things get a little interesting, as rush duels are supposed to be simple and fast. Instead of only being able to do 1 normal summon, you can do as many as you want. Normal summon 3 monsters, and then tribute a Dark Magician, and then tribute summon a Dark Magician girl. You can literally keep normal summoning until you either run out of monster zones or run out of cards in your hand to summon. The basic idea is for you to use your entire hand every single turn. You do as much setup as you can for something to do in that turn, waste your entire hand, then when you get to the next turn, you can get an entirely new hand as if you had just drawn everything at the start of a duel all over again. You also don't have the safety net of a main phase 2. Do a big setup and have your entire field blow up in the battle phase, and you don't have anything to put down to defend yourself. You just gotta take whatever the opponent's got the next turn and hope you survive. But a lot of the older mechanics are still here, like only being able to activate spell cards on your turn, having to tribute summon level 5 or higher monsters. The attacking is pretty much the same as it was before. It's just all of these new features and the very nostalgic feeling of this reset. Rush dueling doesn't have synchros, XYZs, links, pendulums, and all of that new stuff. It's a numbers game like it was way back when Yu-Gi-Oh! First launched, when you didn't have all of these intricate, crazy archetypes that you had to do stuff for, where you could just throw stuff into a deck and make it work. And that's one thing I kinda like about this game. It's nostalgic, it's simple, it's not super convoluted, much easier for newcomers to come into, and it just reminds me of those days when the card game first launched where you didn't have to spend hours upon hours researching to make a good deck. But there is one feature of rush dueling that I really do not like. Legend cards. A legend is an iconic, classic card that is labeled as a legend. Some examples of this being Blue Eyes White Dragon, Red Eyes Black Dragon, and Dark Magician. Legend is like a big ace card and you can only include one copy and one type of legend in your deck. One Red Eyes, or one Blue Eyes, or one Dark Magician. You can't make a dragon deck with both. You can't have more than one copy of each one. And that's a restriction that I really dislike. And I think that's about everything there is to know about rush dueling, so let's go into this video game instead of just talking about the game that it's about. You've got a bunch of 3D areas of this world that you can freely roam around. They've all got NPCs that you can duel, items you can pick up to access on your trainer card, basically your little profile for all of the multiplayer stuff you can do. You can't really update what your character looks like on here, but you can change your display name, icon, and title from a lot of stuff that you earn in-game or can buy from the shop. The menu also allows you to connect pre-made deck recipes or create your own deck once you've unlocked the feature. We'll get into that a little bit later. You can go into Connect, do all of your fun multiplayer battles against other people from around the world. You got missions, which are like achievements that give you rewards as you accomplish certain things in the story. Duel Quiz, which allows you to go through a bunch of little challenges made to teach you combos. And finally, the shop where you can buy card packs, exclusive cards that go in and out every hour or so, or custom parts on the more cosmetic side like card sleeves, game mats, deck boxes, icons for your profile, deck recipes, the list goes on. That customization is actually something I really like about this. In the real world, when you play Yu-Gi-Oh, you can buy all of these customized card sleeves to put your cards in, special game mats that you can order, and I've never seen a Yu-Gi-Oh game that actually has tons and tons of different artwork for those features in the game. In regards to actually getting cards, if you're curious, this game follows the same thing Legacy of the Duelist did with different card packs that you can get RNG cards from. You earn special currency in-game for completing missions, doing duels, going through the duel quizzes, the list goes on, and you use that currency to buy card packs. Each pack comes with a certain number of cards and you get random stuff. And unfortunately, you can get doubles and triples of stuff, so if you're really wanting that Blue Eyes White Dragon from pack 1, you can probably get it after grinding for a very, very long time. But thankfully, if you want some of those classics like Blue Eyes, Red Eyes, or Dark Magician, there are a list of promotional codes that you can put into the game to get instant foil versions of those cards. But let's get back to that grinding because you're going to be doing it a lot. The duel quizzes are great for this currency, as are just doing regular duels, but things cost a lot of money. Especially when you go into the exclusive card shop where special cards constantly cycle in and out. Those amounts of money are massive, like 20,000, 30,000, 100,000. That's like doing 100 duel quizzes, and there might not even be 100 duel quizzes in the game. And I know what some of you might be thinking. No, there are no microtransactions for getting this currency, and no, you cannot save scum the card packs. It auto-saves the moment you open it, so if you don't get what you want, you're just gonna have to keep grinding. Now, I know we already went over all of the different mechanics of rush dueling, but let's talk about the video game side of these duel mechanics. When you're in a duel, you go through the different phases and you've got little settings for different mechanics. It really is inspired from the anime, with the characters constantly talking to one another, and all of the special little animations and reactions going on. The actual art style is cool, like with Duel Links, the little artwork of the monster card is actually above, so it doesn't just look like paper cards on a playmat. But the characters constantly talking with one another with the English dub, which is the only voice option you have available, can get really repetitive and annoying. It is very Yu-Gi-Oh anime with people freaking out every time you pull up a trap card, but by the time I had heard I summon a monster for the 12th time in a single duel, I wanted to rip my hair out and immediately muted all voices forever. But they did add some cool options. The special 3D cinematics for Ace Monster summoning from Legacy of the Duelist comes back, and you can actually turn it off if you don't want to be interrupted for the duel and see it. They also finally gave us the option where you choose to activate a trap card in response to something, and if you don't want to, you can actually go back on your decision, something that I don't think any Yu-Gi-Oh video game I've played has allowed me to go back on. Now when you finish a duel, you earn cards from your opponent as well as some of the currency. The nice thing about this in the story mode is that you can re-challenge literally every duelist you ever come across, so you've got a ton of different opponents to find and keep battling over and over to grind up that money. But grinding all of that money suggests you want to buy cards to make your own deck. And this is my biggest problem with the game. The story mode constantly gives you deck recipes, pre-made decks that they want you to use. You can buy card packs in the middle of the game, but you can't actually unlock the ability to make your own custom deck until you beat the story mode. Yeah, that's right. They expect you to play the entire game before you can even start to deck build on your own. Now, there was an update that allowed you to put the Konami code in on a certain doorway to unlock this early, but even if you do it like that, you might still have to play the game for several hours before you can deck build. Not that it's an immensely long story mode, but still. Let's dive into content and length. Going through the story stuff, not really doing that much on the side, and you're going to get through the entire story of this arc of sevens in about 12 to 15 hours. Now there is a bunch of stuff you can do in the post game, and that actually does sound like a decent amount of content and length, but it goes by really fast, and I would say almost all of that is just dueling and not the actual story. Next, let's go into presentation. Visually, the game looks pretty good. It's got a very Duel Link style to it. There are a few jaggies here and there when you're in handheld mode, but it overall looks pretty well polished. When it comes to performance, I don't really have much to complain about. I saw a couple really small frame drops when wandering 3D areas in handheld mode, but overall it is optimized well. So with that out of the way, let's dive into battery life. Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duel gives the original model a battery range of 2 hours and 36 up to 3 hours and 11. It gives the Nintendo Switch Lite a range of 2 hours and 45 up to 3 hours and 57. The Red Boxer V2 2019 model gets a range of 5 hours and 13 up to 7 hours and 3. And the OLED model gets a range of 5 hours and 20 up to 7 hours and 26. Now in conclusion, Rush Dueling comes to the West for the first time in this little handheld game on the Switch. Now the downside, some of the voice lines and dueling mechanics can get really annoying, and the amount you have to grind for the currency is beyond excessive. Plus, the fact that you can't make a custom deck until several hours into the game, or not until the post-game if you follow the rules proper, is really weird. But if you're a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! And want something simple and more like the old days, it can be a blast to play through these simpler rules. Reviews to Go rates Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duel Dawn of the Battle Royale for the Nintendo Switch a 7 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.